I am Choi Minjun. At 27, I was a resident in internal medicine, grinding my way through an oncology rotation at Aspen Medical Center. On paper, my life looked steady. The promise of a fellowship ahead, the kind of resume my parents could quietly brag about. Underneath, though, I carried truths I didn't say out loud. I am born gay, something that never fit neatly in my reserved society. And now, a proud single father to two small whirlwinds, who own my heart, and who somehow mirrored both my stubbornness and the cold intensity of the man I had once loved in silence. These two little souls, who remind me every single day and night that I had both begged for, and regretted, cherished and feared. I called them Haniel and Biol, sky and star, because no matter how stormy the weather was in my heart, no matter how broken or exhausted I felt, the moment I looked at their small faces, they bloomed inside me like cherry blossoms in spring. Haniel was the ringleader, bossing her brother around with the authority only a 4-year-old could wield, while Biol trailed after her, solemn and wide-eyed, clutching his toy stethoscope like a badge of honor. They played doctor, because their Appa did, though in their world teddy bears got terminal cases, and dolls were sternly ordered to rest and drink more water. And as much as they filled my life with chaos, they were my everything. Yet they were also my secret. Because their father, the man who once made my chest feel like it could both shatter and catch fire in the same moment, had no idea the twins existed. Damian Steele, the man I had loved since I was old enough to understand what gay desire meant. For someone like me, you know, the fabulous G? This CEO whose cold eyes could freeze an entire boardroom, yet whose rare smile could unravel every defense I ever built. He, who plays both ways, had once looked at me with nothing more than passing amusement. Because he never knew that I was silently breaking apart, wanting him, craving him, needing him. For 2 fleeting seasons of spring into summer, he gave me days of reckless bliss, and nights of rough, desperate fire pressed against ice. You know, the kind only men like us could understand. He had taught me what it was to feel a touch, to be desired, to be seen for the person I was born to be. He gave me himself in ways I never thought I'd survive. But such good romance story didn't belong to me. Because then, the world punished me for that forbidden passion, tearing him away into an arranged marriage with the daughter of another powerful family, a predictable and inevitable practice among the elite. When their union dominated every society page with Damian and Melissa's gleaming facade of happiness, I drank my sorrow like poison. To keep myself breathing, I forged my own antidote. Haniel and Biol, my 2 secret children, my sin, my salvation. I took Damian's sperm, bent science to my will through IVF, and claimed via surrogacy, so I could cling to him forever, in my own way. For years later, the news broke. A car accident. Damian's sleek black sedan crushed into twisted metal, his body barely pulled out in time. Rumors spread faster than the sirens. His legs were bad news, they said. The hot, ruthless CEO who once had the world at his feet might never stand again. I rushed to the ER that night, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd collapse before reaching his room. But when I got there, I froze behind the door, peeking in at Damian unraveling. He raged like a madman, refused to see anyone, especially his wife. Then the whispers spread quickly. The accident wasn't just about the road. It was about a marriage cracking apart. On the covers they looked flawless, a perfect society couple. But inside, they were nothing more than puppets, pulled by family strings. And now, broken in body and pride, Damian was angry, too bitter, too lost to face the world. Every day I would purposely take a detour to the rehabilitation wing, where Damian was hospitalized, just to see him from afar. To update myself on his progress, without anyone knowing. Physically, he was stable, almost fine. Except for his legs. The doctor said the muscles could be trained, commanded to walk again. But it wasn't just the body that needed convincing. Not easy, when the mind of the man had already given up. Then fate decided to twist everything again. It happened right there in the hospital. My 2 little cosmos had just returned from preschool to the hospital's daycare wing. A small corner of corporate responsibility that doubled as a lifeline for resident doctors with children. Miss Hannah, the kind intern I paid extra to wrangle my chaos while I finished my shift, had taken them up to their usual playtime in the terrace garden. As always, their appearances brought along bedlam. Like tiny doctors on rounds, Biol ran ahead, clutching his toy stethoscope, dragging Haniel's hand behind him. Both of them giggled as they checked in on every patient in sight, their laughter echoing like the sweetest diagnosis in the world. "Ajashi, does it hurt?" Miss Hannah later told me how my two little whirlwinds harassed a newcomer in a wheelchair. And then, as if fate had chosen to mock me, I learned the lap these two little harassers had so playfully climbed onto belonged to Damian. Steele. The next day, I took my twins to the park myself, instead of leaving them with Miss Hannah. And there he was, Damian, once tall and unyielding in tailored suits, a man whose presence commanded boardrooms without a word. Now confined to a wheelchair. The aura was still there, sharp as ever, but his eyes had changed. Tired. Hollow. Older. For a second, I froze, my breath snagging in my throat. I wanted to run to him, to tell him it was going to be okay. That it didn't matter. That he was still Damian. But my little cosmic chaos beat me to it. My hand grasped at empty air as they darted forward, vanishing from my side, before he even saw me. They climbed onto Damian's lap without a hint of hesitation. My heart nearly jumped out of my ribcage. Damian's bodyguard and personal assistant moved in quickly, ready to pry my children off their CEO. But Damian's hand stopped them. The motion was unhurried. Practiced, like this wasn't the first time he'd allowed such softness near him. Biol, kneeling proudly on Damian's lap with his ridiculous toy stethoscope, announced, "Sir, I need to check your heart." Damian didn't even flinch at the address. He looked at the boy as though he'd heard it 100 times before. "What?" Damian's voice was flat, almost disbelieving. "Your heart," Biol repeated firmly, pressing the toy stethoscope to his chest. "I'm a doctor. I'll check if it's okay." Then Haniel clambered up, poking at Damian's wrist with the seriousness of a surgeon. "I'm checking your pulse." She snapped open her little pink medical kit, pulled out a plastic thermometer, and held it up. "Say Ajashi. I'll fix you if you're hurt." I swear my world stopped spinning as the scene unfolded before me. Because, for the first time in years, I saw something on Damian's face I thought had been erased forever. A smile. It wasn't faint or hesitant. It was almost disbelieving, yet wholly real. His lips curved, his eyes softened, and for one fragile moment, Damian looked human again. He looked alive. And then, as my twins fumbled over him, exploring his body with innocent curiosity, Damian's eyes lifted, sweeping over his surroundings. And then they locked on me. Wide, unblinking raw. Shock. Recognition. Confusion. "Minjun," he breathed, my name slicing through the air. Heavy and urgent. On his tongue. My chest constricted. The children glanced between us, wide-eyed and intrigued. Haniel, ever the sensitive one, frowned, then suddenly shouted across the lawn. "Mama, you know wheelchair Ajashi?" I let my twins call me Mama. Despite that's not how the world rules. I didn't care. The word rolled in my ears like my lifeline, made me felt belonged, felt wanting to be the rock for their small back. "Mama?" Damian's gaze flickered from me to the kids. His brow knitted, jaw tightening. I could see his mind racing like an Einstein, assembling lightning-fast connections. And I knew. He saw it. The resemblance. Haniel's piercing eyes mirrored his own. Biol's baby smirk was his smirk. Both of them, only 4, but already carried themselves like tiny CEOs. Biol's shy frown, exactly the same lost-in-thought look Damian always wore. Seeing how wheelchair Ajashi staring at their mama, the twins scrambled down and bolted back to me. Haniel tilted her head, tugging my hand. "Why? Why is Ajashi?" Staring at us, but not talking. Then Damian spoke. "Low. Dangerous. They're mine, aren't they?" Every word, carrying the weight of a storm barely contained. My heart stopped. Just like that, my world tilted. The silence after Damian's question was unbearable, thick and suffocating, like the hospital corridor itself had conspired to trap us in our truths. "They're mine, aren't they?" he repeated, his words like claws to my chest. The twins, my little cosmos, stared at me like tiny forensic investigators, waiting for my answer too. My throat was dry. My mind screamed to deny it, to laugh it off, to make an excuse. But my trembling heart knew the truth. I couldn't lie anymore. "Yes," I whispered. My voice cracked. The kids didn't fully grasp the charged moment. But they felt it. Little Biol tilted his head, curious and oddly smug, tugging at my sleeve. Oh, are we in trouble, Mama?" I wanted to melt into the floor. Damian's eyes burned into mine, cold, sharp, a storm I couldn't predict. His hands gripped the arms of his wheelchair as he wheeled closer. Then he told his people to leave, demanding this space to be private. When his wheelchair stopped just inches from me, my chest seized. For a terrifying moment, I braced for a scream, a sudden explosion. Instead, his voice dropped low, guttural, carrying the weight of 4 silent years. For years. And you didn't plan to tell me? I swallowed hard. I tried, Damian. I really did. You didn't, he snapped, his voice cracked like a whip. The twins flinched, burying themselves deeper into my embrace. Even my fearless little Haniel clutched my hand tighter, eyes wide and silent. Damian's chest rose and fell unevenly. Do you have any idea what you've done? You stole 4 years from me. For years of them calling me Appa. For years. His gaze swept over the children again, and something shifted in his expression. Anger, definitely. Pain, undeniable, when he added, the 4 years I'll never get back. Yet beneath it all, a fragile glimmer lingered. Longing. Little Biol, completely oblivious to the tension, stretched out his hand and pressed his toy stethoscope against Damian's chest. Ajashi's heart is beating really fast, he announced proudly. Same as Mama, he added with a grin. Haniel giggled. Ajashi is mad. Ajashi, don't be mad at Mama, she scolded, wagging her finger at Damian. Mama makes yummy egg gimbap rolls. Biol perked up. Ajashi, you want some Mama's gimbap? We still have some. For the first time since the conversation started, Damian's lips twitched. Not a smile, not really. But something. I caught it and my heart stumbled. Later that evening, after the twins had napped in the nursery and I finished my shift, I found myself on the hospital's rooftop garden. I needed air. Space to breathe. Space to think. But, of course, fate wasn't done with me. The sound of wheels rolling over tiles reached my ears. I turned. Damian, alone, approached, his suit jacket draped casually over his shoulders. His hair a genuine Fido-Dido bedhead, like he'd run his hands through it one too many times. Minjun. His voice was low. Commanding. Dangerous. I braced myself. For a long moment, we said nothing. His eyes were fixed on the skyline, on me, and back to the skyline. But his hands gripped the rims of his chair, so tightly his knuckles whitened. Then he turned, and his gaze pierced me. How? We're both men. I knew he was talking about the twins. IVF and surrogacy, I admitted openly. And finally brave enough to let the secret I'd carried for so long see to the light. He nodded slowly, comprehension dawning like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. I never imagined you'd go that far for our love back then, he murmured, almost to himself, grappling with the reality before him. Damian, I didn't mean for you to see them. I never intended for you to find out this way. Why did you hold on? His question cut through me like a blade, slicing open the parts of me I'd tried to bury. I took a shaky step forward, my white doctor's coat fluttering in the wind. I sank into the bend across from his wheelchair, and the truth clawed its way out before I could stop it. Because you were my everything. The words hung in the air, raw, trembling, irreversible. Damian's expression wavered for a fraction of a second. Then he scoffed, shaking his head. Isn't that pathetic? He spat. Maybe, I whispered. But it's the truth. I knew you'd never look at me the way I looked at you. I knew we could never be us. But I just wanted to keep a piece of you, to hold on to what we had. And for me, that was enough. His jaw tightened. And you kept them from me. I wanted to tell you, I said, desperation bleeding through every word. I've thought about it, a million ways to tell, but you seemed happy with Melissa. You didn't need me anymore. You were doing okay. There was no reason for the twins to come between you both. But I swear, I never wanted you to know about them. The rooftop fell silent again, save for the faint hum of city lights below. Then Damian spoke, his words soft, fractured. They looked at me like I am someone, he admitted. Like I'm not useless. Like I'm not. His voice trailed off, his gaze dropping to his legs. My chest twisted. Without thinking, I crouched in front of him, meeting his eyes head-on. You're not useless, Damian. Don't you dare think that. You're still Damian Steele. My voice caught. The man who I'll never stop thinking about. The silence thickened, heavy and electric. His eyes burned into mine, so close, unbearably close. His breath brushed my cheek. For a heartbeat, I thought, hoped, that he might close the gap. But he pulled back, his expression hardening. Don't, he whispered. I froze. Don't say things like that unless you mean them, he growled. Don't make me hope for something impossible. My heart ached, splitting in two. And deep down, I knew I meant every word. And maybe, just maybe, he did too. The days that followed were utter chaos. Damian somehow discharged himself from the hospital and showed up at my apartment the very next weekend. Uninvited, of course, proclaiming, with all the seriousness of a dictator, that a father has rights. The twins nearly exploded with joy. They dragged him straight into their game of hospital, crowning him the permanent patient. They made him taste my overrated egg gimbap, and giggled mercilessly at my embarrassment. Who knew a man-doctor's slender hands could make gimbap like this? Damian, for his part, looked genuinely impressed with my skills as a parent. The twins plopped onto his lap as if they owned him, bossing the big man around with gleeful authority. I watched them. I watched him, and a terrifying realization struck me. The more time he spent with them, the more time he spent with me, the more I was falling for him all over again. And this time, it wasn't just one night. It was every day, every glance, every unspoken word, every tiny moment that threatened to shatter me if he ever walked away again. I thought the hardest part was over, that Damian had silently accepted the chaos of my little cosmos. I was wrong. The hardest part wasn't keeping him out. It was letting him in. Letting him into our lives, into our routines, into our space. And into me. It started small. Him showing up on weekends, with some excuse about father's rights. But weekends bled into weekdays. Business meetings mysteriously rescheduled, board matters handled to his vice president. And before I knew it, Damian was around so often that the kids began fighting over who got to sit closest to him at dinner. "Mama, Mr. Appa cuts the steak better than you," little Haniel announced one evening, chewing proudly on a perfectly sliced mini bite Damian had cut for her. I glared at him across the table. He smirked, smug and infuriating. "Of course I do," he said, reaching over to carve Biol's portion too. "Efficiency is my specialty," he declared shamelessly. Haniel gasped, pointing at him with her fork. "That means Mr. Appa is a superhero. He can do everything." Damian leaned back, arms crossed, his smirk widening. "Appa can be Superman for you, baby," he cooed his daughter. I kicked him under the table. He winced, then shot me a sharp look that made my stomach twist in ways I didn't want to admit. But the thing about Damian, he wasn't used to warmth, to noise, to chaos. And the twins? They were chaos in the purest form. The first time, they dragged him into their pillow fort in the kids' bedroom. He looked like someone had asked him to sit in mud. "I'm not crawling in there," he declared firmly, glaring at the blanket tunnel. "Yes, you are." Haniel grabbed his hand. "It's the hospital. You're the sick patient. We have to heal you." "I don't get sick." Damian denied it vehemently. "You're already in a wheelchair," little Biol said innocently, tugging the other side of his arm. "So you're definitely sick." My breath caught, ready to scold the twins for being too innocent with their words. But before I could, Damian laughed. It was low, surprising, rough around the edges like it hadn't been used in years. "Yes, my little doctors. Please heal my legs if you could." And the kids froze. Then, like an explosion, they all laughed with him. I sat quietly in the corner of their little bedroom. In the midst of the messy pillow fort, the scattered toys, plastic medical kits, and two little monsters of his DNA. Damian radiated life and happiness. And damn it, my heart was breaking. And healing. At the same time. Like a man suddenly ignited with a wildfire of determination. Damian threw himself into his physiotherapy sessions at the hospital as if they were a lifeline. Every stretch, every rep, every grueling push against the limits of his body was met with fierce focus. Arms trembling, sweat beading his brow. Muscles screaming. But he didn't stop. He wanted to walk again, and he willed himself forward with every fiber of his being. The twins were there at his side for every session, cheering him on with infectious enthusiasm. Of course, it wasn't all sweet. We argued a lot, mostly at night when the kids were asleep. "You can't just barge in and decide how I raise them," I snapped one evening, in the kitchen, slamming a pot onto the counter. "They're mine too," he shot back, threading closer on his walkers, his tone sharp enough to cut. "You don't get to dictate everything. I've been doing this alone for 4 years," I hissed. "Don't come in now and act like you know better." His eyes burned into mine. "Maybe I would have known if you had told me from the beginning," he accused me. Ouch. That hit hard. I froze, my chest tight. His words echoed in the quiet kitchen, stabbing into the one wound I could never close. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. Then, slowly, Damian shuffled forward on his walker, each step deliberate, closer than I expected. His voice dropped, softer now, raw with pain. Do you know what it feels like? Knowing you lost years you'll never get back? That they learned to say Appa without me? My throat burned. Tears threatened. I retorted. Do you know what it felt like watching you hate yourself so much that you shut everyone out? I was shattered. I thought you didn't want me. On top of it all, you are still married to Melissa. Our breaths tangled in the small space between us. Before I could think, before I could stop myself, I leaned in. And he didn't pull away. Our lips barely brushed, a whisper of heat, of danger, of promise. My heart slammed against my ribs. His breath shuddered against my mouth. For a suspended moment, we existed in something neither of us could name. Then a giggle broke the spell. Two pairs of wide eyes watching, in plain view. Just a few steps away, each clutching a plush animal. They didn't have the words yet, but their eyes were saying, Mama, why are you kissing Mr. Appa in the kitchen? We jumped apart like guilty teenagers. I cleared my throat, stammering. Damian smirked. You little rascals. Go back to bed. Haniel piped up. We want Kissy too. Biol eagerly seconded. My jaw dropped. Damian let out a loud laugh. I punched his arm. Yeah, Appa will kiss you now, he said, herding the twins back toward the bedroom. As they went, I caught Haniel whispering, Appa, are you Mama's boyfriend? Haniel. I yelled from the kitchen, mortified. Don't talk about things you don't understand. But their giggles filled the apartment, echoing long into the night. Later, when the house was quiet again, I found myself standing by the balcony, staring at the city lights. My lips still tingled, my heart still raced. And when Damian joined me, silent at first, his presence warm beside me. I knew things were changing dangerously, irreversibly. He turned his head, his gaze soft for once. Silence stretched between us, heavy with everything unsaid. Then he whispered almost to himself, I think I don't hate it. And just like that, I was falling all over again. The twins had a plan in their little heads even before they knew the vocabulary to them. I knew it. Haniel said after dinner. Appa cannot sleep on the couch anymore. I blinked. What? Both of them crossed arms. Yeah, it's too cold. Appa to sleep in Mama's bed. Then she looked at me with her angelic twinkling eyes and added, Mama has the biggest bed. I choked on my water. He's not. Yes, he is. Biol interrupted, clutching his plus Captain America, his new buddy. Damian, sitting calmly, eyes looking at his tea, smirked like the devil himself almost, pretending nonchalance. I glared at him. I knew this was his doing. The twins cheered. Mama's bed, Mama's bed. They chanted it like a spell until my head spun. I tried everything. Logic, bribery, distraction. Nothing worked. And in the end, I found myself standing in my bedroom doorway, glaring at Damian as he dragged himself on walkers and victorious. Don't blame me if Melissa find out you've been to my bed, I hissed at him. He smirked, unfazed. You should discipline your children better. They're your children too, I shot back. The kids finally went to bed after triple bedtime stories. In the end, Damian was so exhausted, he slept in the kids' futon beds. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I realized Damian had ventured into my room. He sat by the edge, his walkers laid on the floor, his shirt unbuttoned at the top, revealing the strong line of his throat. His gaze was fixed on the window, on the moonlight spilling through the curtains. You're staring, he said without turning. I flushed. No, I'm not. You are. He finally looked at me. His eyes caught the moonlight, sharp and dangerous. But beneath it, something raw. Something I couldn't name. Why do you let them call me Appa? He asked suddenly. The question hit me like a punch. Because. You are, I whispered. You always were. They were created solely your DNA only. His jaw tightened. I don't deserve it, he said, head hung low. Don't you dare say that. I hoisted to sit up and scrambled to his side. Holding his head in my hands, I whispered to his face. The twins adore you. They need you. And so do I. The words slipped out before I could stop them. His gaze locked onto mine. The air between us thickened, heavy with tension. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Say that again, he murmured. My voice shook. I like to have you again. And then he moved. He leaned forward, closing the distance. His lips crashing into mine. Rough. Desperate. Burning. I gasped, my hands flying to his shoulders, holding on as the world tilted. His kiss was everything I remembered from the old nights we shared once. Fire and ice. Dominance and hunger. but deeper, now roaring, laced with something that tasted dangerous. Like longing. When we broke apart, breathless, his forehead pressed against mine, he whispered, "You drive me insane." Choi Min-jun. "Good for you," I whispered back. "Because you've been driving me insane for years." What happened after was inevitable. The bed. His hands strong even if his legs not fully flexible. Gripping me like he'd never let go. My body instinctively arching into his familiar contour of his body. The heat of his mouth trailing fire down my skin. His voice low and commanding. Growling my name like a prayer. And a curse. It wasn't just sex. It wasn't just heat. It was 5 years of silence. 5 years of longing. 5 years of pain and love crashing together, until we both broke apart. Gasping, trembling. Clinging to each other like we'd drown if we let go. And when it was over, when we lay tangled in the sheets, his breath warm against my hair, he whispered something that made my chest ache. "Min-jun, I don't feel crippled when I'm with you." Tears pricked my eyes. I kissed his jaw, my voice shaking. "To me, you never were." He held me tighter. And for the first time in years, I let myself believe. Maybe, just maybe, we could be more than one night. I used to think the hardest part of my life was raising 2 kids alone. But now, sitting on a hospital garden bench with Damian, watching Haniel and Biol darting around with paper pinwheels, alongside Miss Hannah, I realized the hardest part wasn't that at all. The hardest part was learning to let myself be loved. Or more precisely, learning to love someone who could never give me an official title. My heart ached, thinking about that, thinking of living toward a future could exist only in the shadows. On my own, Haniel and Biol were my legitimate heirs. The center of my world. Let Damian in. And suddenly, the twins would cast into the illegitimate stigma. Their future would be in shadow. Love would come to them, at a price I wasn't sure I could bear. "Do you regret it?" Damian's voice cut through my thoughts. I blinked. "Regret what?" He straightened his bad and said, "Letting me back into your life?" His one rough, armor clanking against vulnerability. I sighed, a breath of resigned fate. "Not once. Never would," I said. "Because in Haniel and Biol, there's you. Back then, they saved me through my darkest nights. And now, maybe they'll save you too." My hand reached for his. On instinct, his hand flipped upward, sliding effortlessly into my palm. No hesitation, no doubt. He was silent for a long while, staring at the children who were trying to convince whose pinwheel could actually fly, if they threw them high enough. Then, in quiet voice, seemed only meant for my ears, he said, "I'm divorcing Melissa. For the kids." It was like he heard my inner turmoil. I knew that wasn't entirely true. Deep down, he was doing it for me too. "They're loud," he muttered, his voice low but full of fatherly affection, and smiling sweetly to himself. "My parents would be thrilled," he added. "They're kids," I replied with a soft laugh. "But will Melissa agree?" He let out a long exhale. "She was the reason I was so mad I crashed the car that day. She cheated on me." Oh, I didn't need to ask anything more. That alone made everything else fall into its rightful place. "Min-jun, you're a love-sick fool," he finally said after a longer stretch of silence between us. "And you?" I shook my head, mock scolding him. "You don't even know what's good for you, do you?" We both laughed quietly, though his laugh melted into a small, wistful sigh. "Choi Min-jun," he said suddenly, his voice sharp, like he was afraid if he didn't say it now, he never would. I was angry. Angry at the world. At myself. For letting you go. For obediently marrying Melissa. I hated that I'd lost control of everything. And I cursed the world for taking my legs. But the moment those little rascals climbed on me with their toy stethoscopes and fake bandages, he stopped, shaking his head. His voice cracked, his eyes dark and tired, glistening under the dim light. I felt alive again. Listening to his confession, my heart throbbed in my chest. "And then you showed up," he whispered. "And I hated you. All over again. Because you let us go too easily back then. You didn't even put up a fight. I hated seeing you flourish in your oncology path, while I was drowning in a loveless, deceitful marriage. I hated. No, I resented. That you kept something so enormous from me. And the way you looked at me. Pitiful. When I was trapped in that damn wheelchair. But I can't keep hating you. Because after last night, I see myself clearly. I don't want hate. Not anymore." My lips trembled. "Damian, shut up. Let me finish before I lose the courage." I bit my lip and stayed quiet. His hands squeezed mine, firm, almost desperate. I don't know how to be a good father. And I know you're capable of independence with the kids, even without me. I don't know how to be a better man for you. But I know. I want to try. That is, if you'll let me. The world blurred for a second as tears stung my eyes. My little cosmic chaos were shouting somewhere behind us, demanding attention. But all I could see now was Damian, this broken, beautiful man, who had always been both my downfall and my dream. I leaned in, brushing my forehead against his. Then try. With me. With them. With us. His lips trembled, and for once, he didn't fight it. He pulled me down, and our mouths met. The kiss wasn't rough like before, nor desperate, like our first night back together. It was slow, trembling, searching. A confession, more powerful than words. And when the kids' laughter reached us, tangled with the sound of pinwheels spinning in the breeze, I realized this was it. This was our forever. Months later, we still weren't officially married, but I had fully been accepted into the Steele family. Haniel and Biol were officially recognized as the Steele family's first grandchildren. Legitimate in name, if not yet in ceremony. They became the jewels in the elders' eyes, because of both families' mutual invested benefits, too deeply entwined. Damian remained married to Melissa for another 5 years, to honor the contractual obligations. Yet both of them agreed to live their lives separately, autonomously. Tucked away in our exclusive hilltop villa, our home was chaos. Absolute chaos. But it was ours. Haniel clambered onto Grandma's lap, pressing a crayon drawing into her face. Look, Grandma, I drew this at school today. It's you and Grandpa, and Meat and Biol, and Mama, and Appa. The drawing was a chaotic swirl of color, a big round shape that vaguely resembled Earth, dotted with stickman faces, each one smiling, each one alive with the little universe Haniel had imagined. We're an Earth family? Damian chimed from behind his mother, 2 cups of kids' formula milk in his hands. Yeah, because I'm the big sky, Haniel yelled proudly. Grandpa, look at my star. Biol climbed onto Grandpapa's lap, dragging his crayon drawing along. My star is bigger, the 4-year-old declared, equally proud. Everyone laughed hard. I almost cried. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine a day like this could be real for me. Love didn't make me weak. Love made me whole. And my little cosmic chaos made everything eternal.